Nico was a space explorer. He traveled from planet to planet, learning about new worlds and meeting new creatures. He loved discovering things that no one else had ever seen. But nothing in his life could prepare him for what he found on the small, quiet planet called Zephyra. Zephyra was covered in thick forests and wide, blue lakes. The air smelled fresh and clean, like springtime on Earth. Nico had landed his small ship near one of the lakes to rest and explore. He walked slowly through the tall grass, looking at strange plants and listening to the sounds of the forest. Suddenly, he heard a soft sound. It was a voice, but unlike any language he knew, curious. He followed the sound until he found a girl sitting on a rock near the water. She looked different from humans. Her skin had a gentle green glow, and her eyes were large and bright like stars. She seemed lost and scared. Nico took a careful step forward and said, "Hello, I am Nico. Are you okay?" The girl looked at him with surprise. She tried to speak but only made strange noises. Nico realized she didn't know his language. He smiled gently and showed his open hand, "Friend." He said simply. The girl looked at his hand and slowly reached out to touch it. She smiled, and Nico felt a warm feeling inside. He understood then that she was not dangerous. She was just alone. "My name is Nico," he said again, this time pointing to himself. Then he pointed to her and said, "You?" The girl thought for a moment and said a soft word, "Ayla." Nico nodded. "Ayla," he repeated. "Friend." Ayla smiled brightly. Nico felt happy. He wanted to help her, but he also knew something was different about her. He noticed the way she looked at the world, full of wonder and curiosity, but also confusion. For days, Nico and Ayla stayed together by the lake. Nico showed her how to find food and water. He taught her simple words in his language. Ayla tried hard to learn. She was quick, but her own language was very different from Nico's. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned orange and pink, Ayla looked at Nico with serious eyes. She made a gesture. She pointed to herself, then to Nico, then folded her hands over her heart. Nico was puzzled. He asked gently, "What is it, Ayla?" Ayla's eyes searched his. She tried again, this time making a circle with her hands and then pointing to her chest. Nico thought hard. Slowly, a thought came to him. Maybe she wanted to say something about being close or connected. He smiled. "You want to be friends?" he asked. Ayla nodded quickly, then looked down shyly. Nico laughed softly. "Friend," he said again. "We are friends." But Ayla's expression changed after that. She looked more serious. She made a strange sound, then touched Nico's hand in her own heart. Nico realized Ayla was trying to talk about something very important, something more than just friendship. But what? The next day, Nico tried to learn more. He showed Ayla a picture book about humans and their lives. He pointed to a picture of two people holding hands and smiling. Ayla watched closely. Then she touched her own hand and made a soft sound. Nico thought carefully. "This is how humans show care," he explained. "Holding hands means trust." Ayla looked surprised but happy. She reached out and held Nico's hand gently. Nico felt a strange but good feeling. He squeezed her hand lightly. "Friend," he said. That night, Nico sat by the fire and thought about Ayla. He knew her people must be very different. She had come from far away, and she didn't understand how humans showed love and connection. But she wanted to learn. The next morning, Ayla showed Nico something new. She took out a small, shining stone from her pocket. It was smooth and glowing with soft light. She gave it to Nico with a shy smile. Nico took the stone carefully. "What is this?" he asked. Ayla made a quiet sound and pointed to her chest, then to Nico's. Nico understood. The stone was special, a gift, a sign of trust or connection in her culture. But what did it mean exactly? He smiled warmly. "Thank you, Ayla. I will keep it safe." Days passed, and their bond grew stronger. Nico taught Ayla more about Earth and humans. He showed her pictures of families, friendships, and celebrations. Ayla listened carefully, her eyes full of wonder. One afternoon, Nico noticed Ayla looking at the stars in the sky. She seemed both happy and sad. He asked, "What are you thinking?" Ayla's voice was soft. "My people, they want me to return." Nico felt a pang of sadness. He didn't want to lose her, but he also knew she belonged to another world. "Will you come back?" he asked. Ayla shook her head slowly. "Not yet. I want to stay. Learn more. Find someone." Nico understood. She wanted to find a special bond, something like what humans called love, but in her own way. That night, Nico looked at the stars and made a silent promise. He would help Ayla understand human ways. And maybe, just maybe, he could show her how to find a connection that was real and true. For now, they had only begun their journey. The days on Zephyr passed slowly, but each one was full of small moments that brought Nico and Ayla closer. They were learning from each other, discovering the strange differences between their worlds. Ayla was eager to understand everything about humans. She watched Nico carefully when he talked to his ship's computer or when he ate food. She noticed how people on Earth often smiled or touched each other to show care. One morning, Nico sat by the lake and drew pictures in the dirt. He drew a circle, then to stick figures holding hands. He pointed to the figures and said, "Friendship." Ayla watched with wide eyes. She touched the drawing, then looked at Nico. "Friend," she repeated slowly. "Yes," Nico smiled. "Friend," Ayla wanted to try. She reached out her hand to Nico. "Friend?" she asked. Nico took her hand gently. "Friend." Their hands touched, and a quiet happiness filled the air. For Ayla, this simple act was new and wonderful. But she also felt something deeper inside, a feeling she did not understand yet. Later that day, Nico tried to explain more. He showed Ayla a small device, a holoscreen that played pictures and sounds of human families and friends, people hugging, laughing, helping each other. Ayla's eyes shone. She pointed to a scene where two people hugged tightly. "What is this?" she asked. Nico smiled softly. "Hug. It means care. Love." Ayla tried to hug Nico, but she was unsure. Her arms moved in a strange way, and Nico laughed quietly. "It's okay," Nico said. "Try again." Ayla smiled and hugged him gently this time. The warmth was real. Nico felt the bond grow stronger. That night, Ayla sat outside, looking at the stars. She thought about her own people and their ways. Back home, bonding was not simple. It was full of rituals, strange signs, and rules that often confused her. She wished she could explain this to Nico, but she didn't know how. The next morning, Nico woke to find Ayla watching the sunrise. He walked over and sat beside her. "Do you want to tell me about your people?" he asked. Ayla nodded slowly. She took a deep breath and began to speak in her soft, melodic language. Nico didn't understand the words, but he listened carefully to her tone and feelings. She showed him pictures she had drawn on a leaf, symbols of her tribe, their rituals, and the ceremonies for bonding. Nico looked at the drawings with interest. "Your people have many steps for bonding," he said. Ayla nodded sadly. "Yes, it is hard." Nico thought for a moment. "Maybe," he said, "we can make new ways. Ways that are simple. Ways that both humans and your people can understand." Ayla's eyes lit up. She smiled for the first time in days. Together, they started to create small rituals. Nico showed her how to share food as a sign of trust. Ayla gave Nico a small flower from the forest as a gift. They laughed when they tried to dance around a fire, copying old human traditions. One day, as they walked through the forest, Nico noticed Ayla looking at the sky again. "Are you missing home?" he asked. Ayla nodded. "Yes, but here, I feel safe." Nico wanted to protect her. He wanted to show her that connection did not need to be complicated. It was about respect, kindness, and trust. Later that evening, they sat by the fire, and Nico told stories of Earth, of people who found friends in strange places, who learned new ways to love and care. Ayla listened quietly, then touched Nico's hand and said, "Thank you." Nico smiled. "You are my friend, Ayla." Ayla looked at him with a shy smile. "Friend," she said, but inside, She felt more than friendship growing. She felt a desire to connect deeply, like her people called mating, but without the fear and confusion. Nico did not fully understand this feeling yet, but he knew he would help her find the answer. The next day, they found a small cave filled with glowing crystals. Ayla took one and gave it to Nico. "This is a sign," she said softly. Nico held the crystal close. "A sign of what?" Ayla smiled. "A sign of a trust, of wanting to be close." Nico nodded. "I trust you, Ayla." They sat quietly, watching the crystals shine in the dark. For the first time, Ayla felt hope. She could learn, change, and find a new way to bond not only with her own people, but with someone from another world. Nico felt the same hope. He looked at Ayla and knew their journey was just beginning. They had found each other in a big, strange universe, and together they would discover what it really meant to connect. Nico and Ayla had been spending many days together now. Their friendship was growing strong. But Ayla still felt a deep worry in her heart. She came from a world where bonds were sacred and complicated. She wanted to connect with Nico, but she didn't know how her people would accept it. One morning, as the sun rose over Zephyr's blue lakes, Ayla woke up early. She looked out from their small camp and thought about the future. Her people had sent messages through the stars. They were coming to find her. They expected her to follow their old ways. Nico found Ayla sitting quietly by the water. He sat down beside her and asked, "Are you afraid?" Ayla looked at him with honest eyes. "Yes. My people have many rules. They want me to follow their traditions, but I want to choose my own path." Nico nodded slowly. "I understand, but you are not alone. I'm here with you." Ayla smiled faintly. "Thank you, Nico. You are a good friend." But deep inside, Ayla wished for more than friendship. She wanted a bond of connection that meant she belonged with someone, that she was safe and cared for. That day, as they walked through the forest, strange noises echoed. Suddenly, a group of wild creatures appeared, curious and cautious. Nico raised his hands calmly and spoke softly. "Stay calm. They are just curious." Ayla watched nervously. She saw how Nico did not fear the creatures. Slowly, the creatures came closer, sniffing the air. Nico offered them some food from his pack. The creatures took the food and then backed away peacefully. Ayla was amazed. "You have trust with them," she said. Nico smiled. "Yes, trust is the first step to connection." Ayla thought about her own people. Trust was important for them, too. But their ways to build trust were different, sometimes difficult and strict. That night, by the fire, Nico tried to explain human trust. Trust means believing someone will not hurt you. It takes time, but it grows with kindness. Ayla, listen carefully. In my world, trust is shown by rituals. They are hard to do alone. Nico looked at her kindly. "Maybe we can make new rituals. Something simple." Ayla's face brightened. "Yes, simple. Easy to understand." The next day, they tried a small ritual. Nico took Ayla's hand and placed a small flower in it. "This is a gift," he said. A gift shows care. Ayla smiled and gave Nico a small stone from her pocket. "This is my gift." They exchanged gifts and felt a quiet joy. The ritual was small but powerful. But the next day, trouble came. Ayla's people arrived on Zephyr. Their ship landed not far from Nico's camp. A group of tall beings stepped out. They wore traditional clothing and carried symbols of their tribe. Ayla stood still, nervous. Nico approached slowly, raising his hands to show peace. The leader of Ayla's group spoke in a strong voice, but Nico could not understand the words. Ayla translated slowly. "They want you to return, to follow the bonding ritual with someone from their tribe." Ayla looked at Nico. Her eyes were full of fear and confusion. Nico took a deep breath. "Ayla, what do you want?" She looked down, then back at him. "I want to stay, to learn more, to choose my own way." The leader shook his head. "Your people follow the old ways. You cannot change them." Nico stepped forward calmly. "Maybe new ways can be better, ways that respect both your culture and yours." The leader did not answer. Instead, he signaled to his group. They watched closely. Ayla felt the weight of her people's expectations. She felt torn between two worlds. Nico took her hand gently. Trust me, we will find a way. That night, Ayla could not sleep. She thought about her people's traditions and Nico's kindness. She wanted to be brave. The next morning, Nico suggested a challenge. Let us show your people that trust can be simple. We will face the forest trials together. Ayla looked surprised. Forest trials? They are tests of courage and trust. Nico smiled. Yes, we will do them together. They walked into the deep forest. The trials were small tests set by Ayla's people to prove a bond walking blindfolded, crossing rivers, and finding hidden markers. At the first trial, Nico closed his eyes, and Ayla guided him carefully. He trusted her voice and touch. They crossed the rocky path without falling. The second trial was harder. They had to find a safe place across a fast river. Ayla held Nico's hand tightly, pointing to safe stones. Step by step, they crossed together. At the last trial, they searched for a special flower hidden in the forest. They worked side by side, sharing clues and encouraging each other. When they found the flower, Ayla smiled brightly. We did it, Nico squeezed her hand. Together, they returned to the camp where Ayla's people waited. The leader looked at them with surprise. You passed the trials. Ayla's voice was clear. We show that trust and connection do not need to be complicated. They can be simple and true. The leader looked at Nico and then at Ayla. Slowly, he nodded. That night, Ayla sat by the fire with Nico. Thank you, she said softly. You showed me how to trust. Nico smiled. And you showed me how to be patient. Ayla looked at the stars. My people will stay a few days. Then we will see. Nico reached out and took her hand. No matter what, I will be here. Ayla smiled. Friend, but deep inside, their hearts knew it was more than friendship. Their trials had tested their trust, and they had passed. Together, they were ready for the next step. The next morning on Zephyra was bright and warm. Nico woke up early, as usual, and found Ayla sitting outside their small camp. She was watching the sky, her eyes soft and thoughtful. He sat beside her quietly. Good morning, Ayla, Nico said. Gently, Ayla turned to him and smiled. Good morning, Nico. They shared a moment of calm, the fresh air filled with birdsong and the distant sound of flowing water. Ayla had been thinking about her people's return and the trials they had faced together. Something had changed inside her. She was beginning to understand more about humans and about herself. I want to try something, Ayla said after a while. Nico looked curious. What is it? Ayla stood up and took a deep breath. I want to learn how humans show care and love. Not just friendship, but something more. Nico smiled warmly. I can help you. It is not easy, but we can try. For many days after that, Nico and Ayla worked together. They explored new ways to express connection, ways that mixed Ayla's old traditions. In the simple human ways, Nico showed her how people on Earth held hands, hugged, and looked into each other's eyes. He explained that these small actions could mean a lot: care, trust, respect. Ayla was fascinated. She tried holding Nico's hand and noticed how warm and comforting it felt. She learned how to smile not just with her lips, but with her whole face. One day, Nico brought out a small box. Inside were colorful ribbons and small gifts. These are symbols, he explained. People give gifts to show they care. Ayla's eyes lit up, like my stone and flower. Yes, Nico said, but sometimes it is a promise, a sign that you want to be close. Ayla thought deeply. She took a ribbon and tied it around Nico's wrist gently. This is for you, she said softly. Nico looked at the ribbon and smiled. Thank you, Ayla. I will keep it always. The bond between them grew stronger every day. One afternoon, they visited a small village nearby where humans lived. Ayla watched how families helped each other, how children played and laughed freely. She saw people sitting together, sharing meals and stories. Nico explained. Humans show love by spending time with those they care about. Ayla smiled. This is beautiful. That night, under the bright stars, Ayla spoke quietly. I want to create a new way for my people, something simple and true. Nico looked at her with hope. You can do it, Ayla. Ayla nodded. I will try. The next day, Nico introduced Ayla to a small human tradition of dance. It was simple, with gentle movements that showed respect and joy. Ayla was shy at first. Her steps were slow and careful, but Nico encouraged her with a kind smile. Soon, she began to move with grace. Her body told a story of hope, trust, and connection. When the dance ended, Ayla looked at Nico and said, "This I understand," Nico smiled. "Good, it is your dance now." As the days passed, Ayla shared her new knowledge with her people. They watched carefully, surprised by the changes. Some were cautious. They had never seen bonding without complicated rituals before, but others began to smile. They saw the happiness in Ayla's eyes. They understood that something new and beautiful was growing. One evening, the leader of Ayla's tribe approached Nico. "You have helped Ayla learn. Your ways are simple and kind." Nico nodded humbly. "I only want to help." The leader looked at Ayla. "Your choice will be yours." Ayla felt a deep peace inside. She was no longer afraid. She had found common ground between two worlds, a place where she could be herself. Nico and Ayla sat together by the fire. Their hands touched. The ribbon still tied around Nico's wrist. "Thank you, Nico," Ayla said softly. Nico smiled. "Thank you, Ayla." Together, they looked at the stars, ready for whatever the future would bring. The ship of Ayla's people disappeared into the sky, leaving Nico and Ayla alone on the peaceful planet Zephyra. The air felt lighter, and the trees seemed to sway softly, as if welcoming the new beginning. Nico looked at Ayla. Her eyes shone with hope and a quiet strength he had not seen before. "We are free now," Ayla said softly. "Free to live how we choose." Nico smiled. "Yes, free to build our own future." For the first time, Ayla felt a calm certainty, no longer bound by old rules. She could be herself with Nico by her side. They spent the days exploring Zephyra. Together, the forests were full of life, bright flowers, strange animals, and glowing plants that lit the night. Every moment was a discovery. One afternoon, as they rested near a waterfall, Nico took Ayla's hand and asked, "What do you want for your future?" Ayla thought deeply. "I want a home, a place where we belong, where we can be together." Nico nodded. "I want that too." Together, they began to build. Using materials from the forest and tools from Nico's ship, they made a small shelter. It was simple but strong, a symbol of their new life. Ayla laughed as she helped carry wood and gather stones. "This is fun," she said. Nico grinned. "I never thought building could be so joyful." At night, they sat by the fire, talking about their dreams. Ayla shared stories of her home world, its skies, its mountains, and the stars her people loved. Nico told her about Earth, its oceans, forests, and the people who lived there. They realized how different their worlds were, but how their hopes were the same. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ayla looked at Nico. "I want to learn more about humans, about how they live together." Nico smiled. "I can teach you, and maybe you can teach me more about your people." They made a promise to share their worlds, to learn and grow together. Days turned into weeks. Ayla practiced speaking more human words, and Nico tried to learn some of her language. They laughed at their mistakes and celebrated small victories. One morning, Nico brought a small device from his ship. It was a communication tool that could send messages across space. "We can talk to Earth," Nico said. "To my family and friends." Ayla was curious. "Will they understand me?" Nico nodded. "We will help them." Together, they sent a message, a simple greeting, and a picture of them holding hands. When a reply came, Nico smiled. "They want to meet you someday." Ayla's heart warmed. "I would like that." But not everything was easy. Sometimes, old fears came back. Ayla worried if she could truly belong into worlds. Nico sometimes wondered if he could protect her from dangers they did not yet know. One night, Ayla looked at the stars and whispered, "Will we be okay?" Nico held her close. "We will be more than okay, because we have each other." Ayla smiled. feeling safe in his arms. As the weeks passed, their love grew stronger. It was a love built on respect, trust, and the courage to create a new way. They no longer needed complicated rituals or old traditions. Their bond was real and true, something that neither human nor alien had fully understood before. One morning, as the first light touched the sky, Ayla woke to find Nico preparing something. "What is this?" she asked, curious. Nico smiled and held out a small box. Inside was a simple ring, made from a bright metal found on Zephyr. "This ring is a promise," Nico said softly. "A promise to be with you, to protect you, to love you." Ayla's eyes filled with tears. She took the ring and slipped it onto her finger. "I promise the same," she said. They embraced. Feeling the power of their promise, their future was uncertain, but they would face it together, building a life that combined the best of their worlds. Together, Nico and Ayla had found something rare and beautiful, a bond beyond worlds. The sun rose slowly over Zephyr, painting the sky with soft colors of pink and gold. Nico and Ayla stood outside their shelter, hand in hand, feeling the gentle warmth on their faces. It was a new day, full of hope and promise. They had come, far from strangers in a strange world, to partners building a life together. But today felt different. Something in the air was quiet, yet full of meaning. Ayla looked at Nico with a soft smile. "Today is important," she said. Nico nodded. "Yes, today, we make our bond official." Ayla's people had taught her that bonding was a serious and sacred event, but this time, it would be different. It would be their own way, simple, honest, and full of meaning. They prepared a small ceremony near the lake, where the water sparkled like glass. Nico gathered some flowers, and Ayla picked stones from the shore. Together, they made a circle. On the ground, Nico took the ring he had given Ayla and held it carefully. "Ayla, will you share your life with me? Will you be my partner, my friend, and more?" Ayla looked deeply into his eyes. "Yes, Nico, I will." They exchanged the rings. Again, this time with more meaning. It was a promise not just of love, but of trust, respect, and support for whatever lay ahead. As they stood together, the wind whispered through the trees, and the birds sang softly. It felt like the whole world was celebrating with them. After the ceremony, they walked through the forest, talking about their future. They dreamed of exploring other worlds, meeting new people, and learning more about each other's cultures. Nico said, "We can build a home wherever we go, as long as we are together." Ayla smiled. "Home is not a place. Home is who we are." With their bond was no longer just between two individuals. It was a connection between two worlds, two hearts, and two futures. Days turned into weeks, and Nico and Ayla grew stronger together. They faced challenges, but with patience and love, they overcame each one. One evening, as the stars filled the sky, Ayla asked quietly, "Do you think my people will accept our way?" Nico looked at her and said, "I believe they will, because you have shown them a new path, a path of kindness and understanding." Ayla nodded, feeling proud. Their story was no longer just about two people. It was about hope. Hope that even the oldest traditions could change. Hope that love could cross stars and bring peace. As the months passed, Ayla and Nico built a life full of joy and discovery. They planted gardens, explored new places, and shared stories from their worlds. Sometimes, Nico would teach Ayla human games, and she would laugh with delight. Sometimes, Ayla would sing songs from her home planet, and Nico would listen and wonder. Their days were simple, but full of meaning. One morning, as they watched the sunrise, Nico turned to Ayla and said, "Thank you for choosing me." Ayla smiled warmly. "Thank you for being my light." Together, they faced the unknown with courage and love. Their bond was a promise of new beginning. Far away, in a galaxy filled with many stars and strange worlds, there was a planet called Velara. Velara was home to a proud and strong people. They lived in shining cities with tall towers and vast gardens. Among them was Princess Tira, the youngest daughter of the Velaran king and queen. Tira was known for her sharp mind and quick tongue. She never accepted anything without proof. One day, the Valerian court heard about Earth, a small blue planet with a strange species called humans. The humans were curious and brave, but Valerians thought they were simple and weak in many ways. Princess Tira, in particular, liked to tease humans. She said, "Humans are weak. They cannot keep a mate all year. Their bonds are only for a short time, like the seasons of Valara. How can they call themselves strong?" Her words spread quickly through the court. Some Valerians agree with her. They believe that their own way of life, having mates only during special seasons, was the only way to be strong. Humans, they said, were soft and foolish. But not everyone in Valara thought this way. Kian, a young man from Earth, was sent to Valara as an envoy. His mission was to speak with the Valerians and show them that humans were not weak at all. Kian was calm and confident. He knew what humans were capable of. When he heard about Princess Tira's words, he decided to prove her wrong. The day Kian arrived on Valara, the sky was bright with two suns. The Valerian palace stood tall and grand, made of shining metal and glass. Guards with long spears watched as Kian's spaceship landed smoothly on the marble platform. Kian stepped out, wearing simple clothes but with a steady look in his eyes. He was taken to the great hall where Princess Tira waited. The hall was filled with Valerian nobles and scientists, all curious about this human who dared to challenge their princess. Tira sat on her high throne. Her eyes sparkled as she looked down at Kian. "So, you are the human who says they can have mates all year long. Tell me, Kian, how is this possible? Valerians only bond during the season of light. After that, all others are free. Humans, so you can love and stay close every day, no matter the time. I do not believe you." Kian smiled gently. "Princess Tira, I understand your doubts, but humans are different. Our hearts and minds allow us to connect deeply at any time. It is not about seasons or rules. It is about trust, respect, and care. I will show you." The princess raised an eyebrow. "Words are easy, Kian. I want proof. Show me evidence. Not just stories." Kian nodded. "I will. But I need time, please. Allow me to stay here and explain our ways." Tira leaned forward. "You have one cycle. That is one Valerian month to prove your claim. If you cannot, you must leave Valara and never return." The room grew quiet. Everyone watched Kian. The challenge was clear, and the stakes were high. Kian accepted. Without fear. "One cycle is enough." The Valerian scientists and nobles whispered among themselves. Some thought Kian would fail. Others were curious to learn more about humans. After the meeting, Kian was shown to his quarters inside the palace. The room was large and filled with soft light from glowing crystals. Outside, he could hear the distant sounds of the city and the soft hum of Valerian technology. Kian sat by the window and thought about what he would do. He knew that proving human connection would not be easy. Valerians lived by strict rules and seasons. Humans, on the other hand, were guided by emotions and choices. He picked up a small device from his bag, a projector. He planned to use it to show the Valerians many things about humans, their festivals, their stories, and most of all, their bonds. That night, Kian dreamed of Earth. He saw his family, his friends, and the people he loved. He remembered how humans celebrated love and friendship every day, not just once a year. The next morning, Kian met with the Valerian scientists. He showed them images and videos of humans throughout the year. He showed families working together, friends helping each other, and couples supporting one another in all seasons. One scientist, Elder Vesh, asked, "But how do humans keep these bonds strong? Valerians have the season of light to guide us. After that, our hearts cool." Kian explained, "Humans have a strong will. We choose to care, to trust, and to forgive. Our emotions can grow like a fire that burns steady, not just a flame that shines for a short time." The scientists were intrigued but still cautious. They asked many questions about human biology, culture, and habits. Over the next days, Kian continued to share. He talked about human stories where people stayed together through hard times. He spoke of festivals where humans celebrated connection. No matter the season, Meanwhile, Princess Tira watched carefully. She did not show much emotion, but her eyes followed every word. One evening, she approached Kian privately. "You speak well, human, but words can be taught and learned. How can I feel what you say? How can I understand human bonds in my own heart?" Kian smiled. "Princess, I will find a way. Give me time." Tira nodded slowly. "You have 1 week left. Use it wisely." Kian felt the weight of the challenge, but also a quiet excitement. He believed in humanity's strength. He knew that with patience and honesty, even the proud princess of Valara would see the truth as the two suns set. Behind the tall towers of Valara, the palace grew quiet in the silence. Kian prepared for the next step, a demonstration that could change everything.